Officer, don't open that!
You don't tell me what to do.
I warned you.
The noon sun hung over the county courthouse parking lot like a white-hot spotlight. Heat shimmered above the asphalt, turning the rows of parked cars into wavering shadows. A few employees hurried toward the building, shielding their faces from the glare while a patrol cruiser sat near the far end of the lot with its engine running. Officer Ryan Cole stepped out. He was a veteran patrol officer, broad-shouldered and confident, the kind of cop who had learned that a badge could make people move before he ever had to raise his voice. His sunglasses reflected the parking lot as he walked toward a young black woman standing beside an older silver sedan. Her name was Camille Turner. She wasn't shouting. She wasn't resisting. She wasn't trying to run. Her wrists were secured behind her back. Beside her, on the hood of the sedan, sat a thick black packet sealed with a bright red strip. Cole picked it up. He turned it over once, then twice. His eyes narrowed when he saw the official markings. Printed across the front. "What's in here?" he asked. Camille looked at the packet, then at him. "It's sealed government material," Cole gave a short laugh. "That wasn't my question." Camille kept her voice calm, "I understand. But you're asking about something you're not authorized to open." Cole stared at her for a moment. Neither of them spoke. His partner, Officer Daniel Reed, stood several feet away. Reed was younger, less experienced, and visibly uncomfortable with the direction the stop was taking. He looked at the packet and then at the markings on its front. "Ryan," Reed said quietly, "maybe we should contact the station before we handle that." Cole didn't look at him instead. He stepped closer to Camille. "You giving me orders now?" "No," Camille answered. "I'm giving you a warning." Something about the answer irritated him. Most people became nervous when an officer raised his voice. Most people started explaining themselves. They apologized. They pleaded. They tried to convince the officer they were harmless. Camille did none of that. She simply stood there beneath the Georgia sun, her hands cuffed behind her, speaking with the measured calm of someone who understood that losing her temper would only make the situation worse. Cole held the packet between them. "You know what I think?" He said, "I think you're hiding something. I know what you think. And I think you're going to tell me exactly what's inside. I've already told you no, you haven't." Camille looked at the red seal. "Officer Cole, please put it down." He smiled. "Please, yes, you're in handcuffs. I know you're standing beside a vehicle I just searched. I know, and you're still telling me what I can and can't do." Camille looked directly into his eyes. "I'm asking you to do your job correctly." The words landed differently than an insult would have. Cole's jaw tightened. Being challenged was one thing. Being challenged calmly was another. "Reed shifted his weight, Ryan," he said again. "The seal looks official." Cole finally turned toward him. "You want to take over this stop?" "No, then stay out of it." Reed fell silent. Camille watched the exchange without saying anything. She understood something Reed was still learning. A badge could represent protection, accountability, and service, but it could also become dangerous when an officer forgot that authority existed. For the public, not for personal pride. Cole brought the packet closer to his face. "You're making this worse for yourself." Camille shook her head slightly. "No, you're making a choice." Cole stared at her. "A choice?" "Yes." Her voice never rose. "If you open that packet, whatever happens afterward will be because you chose to open it." For the first time, Cole's confidence faltered for half a second. Then the familiar arrogance returned. He looked at the red seal. He looked at Camille and he smiled. "You really expect me to believe you're going to scare me with a piece of paper?" Camille didn't answer. The silence around them seemed to grow heavier. A delivery truck rolled past the entrance. Somewhere across the lot, a car door slammed. The American flag outside the courthouse moved slowly in the hot breeze. Cole slid his thumb beneath the edge of the red seal. Reed took one step forward. Officer Cole raised his hand. "Don't." Camille closed her eyes for the briefest moment. Not because she was afraid, because she knew the next decision belonged entirely to him. Cole dug his thumb deeper beneath the seal. The adhesive resisted. He pulled harder. Camille opened her eyes. "Officer Cole," she said quietly, "don't open that packet." Cole looked at her one final time. Then he ripped the seal apart. 40 minutes earlier, the same parking lot had looked completely ordinary. Camille Turner had stepped out of the county administration building with the black packet tucked securely beneath her arm. She had no idea that within minutes, a routine drive home would turn into a confrontation that would test everything she believed about patience, courage, and the responsibility that came with wearing a badge. She walked toward her silver sedan, keeping her eyes lowered against the bright afternoon sun. The packet was important, not because of what it looked like, but because of what it represented. Inside were documents that had taken months to collect, statements from people who had been afraid to speak, records that had been ignored, evidence that could not simply be replaced if it disappeared. Camille placed it carefully on the passenger seat. Before getting behind the wheel, she had barely started the engine when red and blue lights flashed in her rearview mirror. She immediately pulled over, no sudden movements. Both hands remained visible on the steering wheel. A patrol cruiser stopped behind her. Officer Ryan Cole stepped out. His partner Daniel Reed followed. Camille watched them approach through her side mirror. "License and registration, certainly, officer." She handed them over. Cole barely looked at the documents before his attention shifted toward the passenger seat. His eyes landed on the black packet. "What is that, a sealed document? From where the county administration building? What kind of document?" "A sealed one." Cole's expression hardened. "Open the passenger door." Camille looked at him. "Why?" "Because I asked you to." "That doesn't give you permission to search my vehicle." Reed glanced at Cole. Cole ignored him. "Step out." Camille slowly opened the door and stepped onto the pavement. The heat immediately rose through the soles of her shoes. Cole walked around the vehicle. He opened the passenger door and reached inside. His fingers closed around the packet. Camille's voice remained calm. "Officer Cole, please don't open that." He turned. "You've said that twice now." "Because it's sealed for a reason." "Then you won't mind explaining what's inside?" "I've explained what I can." Cole held the packet against his chest. "Are you refusing a lawful order?" "No, I'm asking you to follow proper procedure." That sentence made Reed look at her differently. She wasn't trying to embarrass Cole. She wasn't insulting him. She was reminding him that the badge he wore came with rules. For a moment, Reed looked as though he wanted to say something. Instead, he glanced toward Cole. "Her registration is clean." Cole looked at him. "Run the plate." "I already did, and nothing, no warrants. No outstanding tickets." Cole's eyes returned to Camille. He seemed irritated that the computer had failed to give him a reason to keep her there. "Do you have any weapons in the car? No drugs, no anything illegal?" "No." Cole stared at her. "Mind if I search?" "Yes, you do mind." "Yes, why?" "Because I have the right to say no." The words were quiet, but they carried weight. Reed looked down. He knew she was right. Cole's voice became colder. "Step over to the curb." Camille didn't move immediately. "Am I under arrest?" "Not yet." "Then am I free to leave?" Cole paused. That was the question he didn't want to answer. Instead, he reached for his handcuffs. Reed looked up. Ryan Cole's eyes warned him to stop. Camille slowly placed her hands behind her back. The cuffs clicked shut. She winced slightly as the metal tightened around her wrists. Cole led her toward the curve. She sat down carefully. The concrete was already hot from the sun. Cole walked back toward the vehicle and lifted the packet again. Reed followed Ryan. "This doesn't feel right." Cole stopped. "What's that supposed to mean? She hasn't done anything." Cole looked at him for several seconds. "Your job isn't to decide whether she did something. Then what's our job?" Cole looked toward the woman sitting alone on the curb. "Our job is to control the situation." Reed didn't answer. Camille heard every word. She looked down at her cuffed hands. Then she looked toward Reed. "Officer." Reed turned. "If you're going to wear that badge," she said quietly, "remember that people will remember how you used it." Reed's expression changed. Those words weren't angry. They weren't threatening. They sounded almost like advice from someone who still believed officers could choose to do the right thing. Cole returned to Camille holding the packet. "You've got one chance," he said. Camille looked at him. "One chance for what? To tell me what's inside." She took a slow breath. "Officer Cole, I already told you. And I'm telling you, I'm going to open it." Camille's eyes settled on the red seal. "Then you're making a decision you may regret." Cole laughed. "That's not your call." He placed the packet on the hood. Reed stood beside him. Camille remained on the curb. For several seconds, nobody moved. Then Cole reached for the seal again. his thumb pressing firmly beneath the red strip as the adhesive began to separate under his hand. Cole pressed his thumb beneath the red seal. The adhesive stretched. For one brief second, the parking lot seemed strangely quiet. Reed looked at the packet, then at Camille. "Ryan, I'm serious. We should stop." Cole didn't even look at him. "Then don't watch." He pulled the seal, tore with a sharp rip that seemed louder than it should have been. Several pages slid from the opening and scattered across the hood. Cole reached for the first one. His eyes moved across the page, then stopped. His confident expression disappeared. Reed stepped closer. "What is it?" Cole didn't answer. At the top of the page was his name. Officer Ryan Cole. Below it were dates, locations, case numbers. Names of citizens. Reed's face tightened. Ryan. Cole grabbed another page, then another. The pages weren't random. They were organized photographs. Written statements, copies of complaints, traffic stop reports. And besides, several of the reports were handwritten notes that connected his actions to the same pattern over and over again. Cole's breathing changed. He looked toward Camille. She was still sitting on the curb, still handcuffed. "Still calm, you knew," he said. Camille didn't answer immediately. "I warned you." Cole shook his head. "No, you knew what was in this packet." "Yes, who are you?" Camille looked at the badge on his chest. "I told you to do your job." Cole looked back at the documents. One page contained a photograph taken from a security camera. It showed Cole standing beside a vehicle during a previous traffic stop. Another contained a citizen's sworn statement. Another contained an internal report with Cole's signature. Reed picked up one of the pages. His eyes widened. "This is from last year." Cole snatched it from his hand. "Give me that. Why is your name on all of these?" Cole didn't answer. The truth was beginning to surround him from every direction. And for the first time, Reed understood why Camille had never begged. She hadn't been waiting for someone to rescue her. She had been waiting for the evidence to speak. Cole suddenly grabbed the remaining papers. "This is confidential." Camille looked at him. "You should have thought about that before you opened it." His face hardened again. "You set me up." No, her voice remained steady. "You did that yourself." Those words hit harder than an accusation. Cole looked at the broken seal, then at the scattered documents, then at his own hands. He had spent the entire afternoon believing that he was the person controlling the situation. Now he was beginning to understand that every decision he had made had created another piece of evidence. Reed slowly stepped away from him. Ryan put the papers down. Cole stared at his partner. "You're taking her side?" "No," Reed swallowed. "I'm taking the side of doing the right thing." That sentence changed the atmosphere. Reed reached toward his body camera and made sure the recording was visible. "Cole noticed you've been recording." Reed nodded. Since the beginning, Cole's face went completely still. Every demand, every threat, every accusation, every moment Camille had warned him, every moment he had ignored her. It was all recorded. Then the sound of approaching vehicles came from the entrance of the parking lot. 3 black SUVs turned into the lot. Cole looked toward them. Reed recognized the vehicles before Cole did. Federal agents stepped out. One of them carried a folder. Another wore a badge clearly marked with federal credentials. The lead agent walked directly toward Camille. "Ma'am, are you investigator Camille Turner?" Camille nodded. "Yes." The agent looked at her wrists. "Are you injured? Just sore?" He turned toward Cole. "Take the cuffs off her." Cole didn't move. The agent's voice became firm. "Officer, remove the cuffs." Cole slowly unlocked them. The metal fell away from Camille's wrists. She rubbed the red marks left behind. Then the agent looked at Cole. "Officer Ryan Cole, step away from the evidence." Cole stared at him. "What evidence?" The agent pointed toward the packet. "That evidence." Cole's face drained of color. The agent opened his folder. "Do you recognize this?" He showed Cole a federal investigation notice. Cole's name was printed across the top. Reed looked over his shoulder. Camille stood quietly beside them. The agent continued. "For the last several months, our office has been investigating complaints involving unlawful searches, intimidation, and misconduct." Cole looked at Camille. "You're a federal investigator." Yes, his mouth opened, but no words came out. The woman he had treated as a powerless suspect had been documenting the very behavior he believed would ever challenge the agent. Took another document from the folder. "And when you opened that packet, you didn't expose her." He paused. "You exposed yourself." Cole looked down. For once there was no clever response. No threat, no command, no badge could erase what had already happened. The agent placed a pair of federal restraints on the hood. "Officer Cole, you're being taken into custody, pending federal charges." Reed stepped back. Cole looked at him. "You're really going to let this happen?" Reed's eyes were wet. "I should have spoken up sooner." That moment mattered, because this story wasn't only about one bad officer. It was about the responsibility carried by everyone who wears a badge. A badge should never be a shield from accountability. It should be a reminder that someone trusted you with power, and that trust has to be earned every day. And Camille's strength wasn't about overpowering anyone. It was about refusing to surrender her dignity when someone tried to convince her that her voice didn't matter. As Cole was LED away, Camille looked down at the broken red seal lying on the hood. She picked it up, not because she needed it anymore, because it reminded her of something she had learned long ago. Sometimes courage doesn't look like shouting, fighting, or running. Sometimes courage is simply standing your ground and calmly saying no. The parking lot slowly returned to normal. Cars continued moving. People continued walking into the courthouse. But something had changed. A young black woman had been treated like she didn't matter, and yet she had remained composed, enough to let the truth speak for itself and a police. Officer had been reminded of the most important lesson a badge can carry. Authority without accountability is not justice. If you were sitting on that curb handcuffed, and the officer demanded that you surrender something you knew he had no right to open, what would you have done? Stay silent, argue, or keep your calm like Camille? Tell me in the comments. I genuinely want to know what you would have done, and if you believe good police officers deserve respect precisely because they protect people without abusing their power. Tell me that too. Most importantly, tell me what kind of story you want next. A corrupt officer exposed, a black woman fighting back against injustice, or a quiet hero inside the police department who finally decides to speak up, because sometimes the person who looks powerless in the first 5 minutes is the person who changes everything. By the end,